The night the honey started glowing, Jade Morales had stayed up late bottling. The usual amber translucence of her rooftop hives had shifted, as though moonlight had pooled inside each jar. She killed the work light, expecting darkness. Instead, the jars kept shimmering, giving off a tender green gold halo that outlined her calloused fingers. She set one jar in the sink, unscrewed the lid, and sniffed. Nothing smelled different. Smoky sweet, with the tang of city pollen that always edged her batches. No ozone, no chemicals, no rot. She touched the luminous surface. It was warm, but honey often ran a few degrees above air temperature. Still, this shimmering was new, impossible, and more than a little unnerving. Jade had kept bees for 6 years on her Crown Heights brownstone roof, selling Morales Honey Co. at the Saturday market. She loved the hush the hives brought above Atlantic Avenue traffic. Every bee's waggle dance felt like a coded message meant only for her. So when something changed, she noticed. She spent the next 2 nights combing her setup for explanations: new hive equipment, contamination from the hardware store varnish, a prank by Ezra, the graffiti kid next door. Nothing. The bees behaved normally, fanning their wings to ventilate brood boxes, shouldering past one another at the entrance, reducer like glittering commuters. On the third night, she climbed up at dusk with her veil and a thermos of coffee, determined to watch where they foraged. She expected them to vanish into the city's vegetal scraps. Community gardens, the botanic garden, tree-lined medians. Instead, as daylight leaked away, she saw a thin ribbon of bees gliding east, not down toward the streets, but laterally across rooftops, a soft, dark stream, heading for the old textile factory 3 buildings over. That factory had been converted years earlier into lofts, one of which belonged to Elias Laurent, the composer. Jade only knew his name because their mail sometimes got mixed up. E. Laurent, Penthouse, G. She had never spoken to him. Neighbors said he slept by day and wrote otonal space operas by night, whatever those were. She had certainly heard his music, a slow, pulsing thrum that leaked into the air shaft after midnight, more heartbeat than melody. Perhaps the bees followed vibrations as much as scent. Just after 11, she zipped herself into a windbreaker, pocketed a red bicycle light, and crossed the narrow roof gap to the factory. A hand-painted no trespassing sign hung on the door to the fire escape stairs, but the latch was broken. She climbed, adrenaline humming. At the top, she emerged into a rooftop garden unlike anything she had seen in Brooklyn. No tomato vines and 5-gallon buckets, no plastic kiddie pools turned into herb beds, but long curving planters of what looked like jungle under black grow lights. Thick leaves shimmered indigo, blossoms glowed faintly turquoise, as if they contained stored twilight. The air smelled of wet stone and citrus peel, layered with something metallic and sweet. In the center stood Elias, a tall man in loose linen, bowing a viola da gamba. The instrument's voice was low, mournful, and exquisitely soft, yet the garden vibrated, petals trembling in sync with each stroke. Jade wanted to back away, but a bee flew lazy figure eights around her head, its abdomen already lit like an ember. Elias lowered his bow. "You're scaring them," he said without turning. His voice sounded like a page turning in a library, quiet, patient, nonplussed. "They're my bees," Jade answered, though the words came out more defensive than she intended. At that, he did turn, sharp profile, gray streak through black hair, dark crescents under his eyes. Ah, the beekeeper. He set the viola against a cedar bench. Up close, she saw a row of mason jars beside him, each half filled with glowing honey, the same light nodding in her own kitchen. "You've been collecting," she said. "I borrow a spoon now and then." "That's theft." "Artistic sampling," he corrected, dry. Jade crossed her arms. "What are you growing up here?" Ilias stroked one of the luminous flowers. Its stamens chimed faintly, like wind touching crystal. Belladonna noctis, he said, though common Latin fails it. Night whisper bloom. From a valley in Corsica where the moonlight's a different angle, they absorb certain frequencies. Frequencies? He tapped the body of the viola. The string reverberated, the petals brightened by degrees like lanterns turned up. Jade swallowed. That's photosynthesis in the dark. Impossible. Yet here you are, seeing it. She took out her phone to record. The screen showed bruised new darkness. The blossoms barely registered. The camera could not catch what her naked eye believed. She lowered it. My honey glows now. I can't sell that without explaining. Then don't sell it, Elias said. I make rent with those jars. Find a different market. His lack of concern lit a fuse in her chest. She pivoted to leave, then stopped. Are the bees safe? As safe as anything alive. They sip light and carry it home. Your hives become lanterns. The cycle repeats. They don't seem to mind. Jade returned through the dark, jarred by anger and wonder. That night she placed a sample jar on her windowsill. It cast weak sea-green glints across the ceiling, lulling her to sleep. By morning, questions outweighed awe. Was the honey radioactive? Was she complicit in an ecological mess? She spent the afternoon at the Brooklyn College chemistry lab, where her friend Priya TA'd. Under spectrophotometry, the honey registered no ionizing radiation, no heavy metals beyond the usual trace. It emitted a slow chemiluminescence, triggered by a compound unknown to the database. Priya's eyebrows rocketed up. You've discovered a brand new metabolite. Patent it. I don't even know what it is, Jade said. Then collaborate with whoever does. Jade thought of Elias and his indigo flowers, the way the garden pulsed like a secret heart. Collaboration seemed unlikely. The man lived in a parallel dimension powered by quarter tones. Still, that night she left a note at his door. Ran tests. Honey is clean. We need to talk ethics and supply chain. 9 p.m. tomorrow on my roof. He turned up at 9:07, viola case in hand, wearing the same linen as if daytime never touched him. He agreed to a truce long enough to drink her homemade spruce tip mead. Conversation felt like balancing on a narrow rail, but each sentence nudged them forward. Elias had discovered the night whisper seeds during a composition residency in Corsica. Their faint glow reminded him of synesthetic colors he heard in minor sevenths. He'd smuggled back a handful, coaxed them to bloom under customized UVA lamps. The plants craved vibration instead of sunlight, so he played daily, viola da gamba at midnight, field recordings of glaciers at dawn. The results pleased him, though he hadn't predicted they would lure bees. They pollinate perfectly, he said. Better than the moths in Corsica. But I don't harvest the nectar. They do. A barter, invisible until your jar's lit. Jade explained her livelihood. Weekly market stalls, local CSA orders, the small, stubborn economy she'd built after quitting a museum job. She carried student debt and a rent-stabilized lease. Glowing honey might jeopardize both if the Department of Agriculture stepped in. Then we maintain secrecy, Elias proposed. I can't just stop selling. People count on me. What if you offered them something rarer? He lifted the viola, sound and taste together. The idea seemed flimsy, but she listened as he outlined it. An afternoon's rooftop salon, limited seats, guests tasting luminous honey while surrounded by the flowers that birthed it, the music that fed them. Not commerce, he concluded. Communion. Jade nearly laughed. She could picture her market regulars, Jennifer beer dads pushing strollers, sitting cross-legged in his phosphorescent jungle. Yet another part of her, the college art historia major who once dreamed of curating immersive installations, leaned in. We'll need permits, she said finally. Too visible, Elias countered. We invite carefully, like bees selecting a scout. They set a date. Next Friday, the new moon, when the sky would not compete. Jade would provide 3 varietals, linden, rooftop clover, and the new Luminous batch. which they nicknamed Nocturne. Helios would premiere a composition called Apiary for the Sleepless. Priya would discreetly monitor for adverse reactions. 15 guests max. Invitations went out through whispered channels. A fermented food blogger, a lighting designer on Broadway hiatus, Jade's best customer, a pair of doctoral candidates in ecology, the graffiti kid Ezra, all sworn to secrecy. They were told only to wear dark clothes and follow a trail of glowstick crumbs up the freight stairs. On the night, clouds shredded into pearl strands as wind shifted off the harbor. Guests gathered on the factory roof, gasping at the plant's vines shimmering cobalt, buds opening like slow camera apertures. Jade stood behind a narrow table of slate tiles, holding demitasse spoons and miniature toast points. Each jar of honey glowed a different octave. Clover soft lemon green, linden bright chartreuse, nocturne deep opal and gold flirting with teal edges. Under the garden's aura, skin and steel watch bands sparkled faintly, as if everyone had dipped hands in stardust. Elias bowed his first note. It vibrated through planter boxes. Petals flared. The bees arrived on cue, drifting from Jade's roof like silent confetti, lighting pathways overhead. Guests tilted faces up, some near tears. Jade watched spoons lift to tongues. Murmured adjectives drifted, citrus fireworks, summer thunder, like falling up. She had never seen her honey produce awe quite like this. Halfway through, Ezra the graffiti kid elbowed her. "Yo, you selling this stuff?" "Tonight isn't a market," she whispered. "Could be." He gestured at the rapt crowd. "People pay rent for experiences that feel like miracles." The word rent tightened her stomach. She still owed August's. But she also felt, perhaps for the first time in months, unsullied excitement. What if she restructured her entire business model? Pop-up tastings, limited edition batches, educational workshops on pollinator soundscapes. She could pay the bills and protect the bees. The concert ended on a harmonic so low it felt more physical than audible. Silence followed like dew. Elias let the bow hang. The flowers slowly dimmed to mere outlines. Guests exhaled in a single collective breath, as though they'd been holding it for a year. No applause. Clapping would cheapen what had happened. After they left, Jade and Elias cleaned up. The bees hovered, loath to abandon the fading resonance. Around 2, when only a few glimmers remained, Jade touched the largest blossom. It was cool now, spent. "I have to scale," she said. "Interest will spread." Elias slumped onto a crate. "You'll brand it." "Lumina honey artisanal." "I might," she admitted, "but responsibly. I'll cap quantities, reinvest in habitat." "Habitat," he smirked. "A line item on a spreadsheet hardly equals sanctuary." His contempt pricked. "I'm not the villain here. You imported alien plants that changed the biology of a burrow without consent." "I sought beauty," he said. "So do I. Beauty can pay for itself, you know. It's allowed." The tension tasted like tin. They parted without another word, each climbing down separate fire escapes. For 3 days, Jade wrestled spreadsheets, trying to quantify intangible wonder. Meanwhile, blog posts leaked. Someone had ignored the secrecy pact. Photos of the glowing honey slammed across social media. Phone pings rose to a shrill background. By Thursday, a reporter from Gothamist called. Jade let it ring out. Friday afternoon, she found a city notice taped to her front gate. Potential biohazard. Cease and desist apiary activity pending inspection. Someone had tipped them off. Her throat closed. She sprinted upstairs. The hives looked normal, bees innocently working. But a shutdown could last months, lifetimes in small business terms. She thought of Elias. Whether he'd called authorities in a fit of spite or a fit of conscience, she couldn't guess. Either way, she needed answers. Dusk bled purple when she reached the factory roof. The garden lights were off, the planters sheared empty. Soil lay bare, as if nothing exotic had ever sprouted. Tools and instruments gone. She raced inside. His loft door was open, echoing with vacancy. On the floor, propped against a crate, rested a single jar of nocturne glowing softly. A note affixed with beeswax read, "I will not let them dissect this. Protect the bees, Jade. Keep playing. No signature necessary." Anga crumbled into grief. She sat cross-legged, holding the jar like a fragile star. Authorities would still come. Without Elias's flowers, the bees might stop glowing, the evidence might fade. But the inspection could kill them first. Standard protocol sometimes involved destroying hives. Jade stood, squared shoulders, and carried the jar home. She spent the night drafting an email blast. To whom it may concern, my rooftop apiary remains healthy. My bees have displayed a harmless luminescence due to a rare botanical symbiosis. I invite city inspectors to witness this in situ and collect samples under my supervision. Transparency protects pollinators better than fear. She attached lab reports. Priya rushed over, demonstrating non-toxicity, and CC'd every entomologist she could find. If the city meant to scrutinize, let them do it with full scientific glare. Inspection day arrived. 3 officials in Tyvek suits climbed to her roof. Priya, clipboard ready, guided them through sterile swab protocol. Bees buzzed calmly, evening sunlight striking their wings like copper wire. No glow-it had tapered off once the garden vanished, but the officials could hardly cite non-existent radiation. They left with polite warnings and nothing to condemn. In the quiet aftermath, Jade acknowledged risk had only paused. Viral photos still circulated. Curiosity would return. She needed counsel, collaborators, a way to direct attention instead of douse it. That night, unable to sleep, she found her fingers tracing the viola jar's rim. Elias had said keep playing, but she lacked an instrument. She did, however, possess the city's Siren Sabace, chord of bus brakes, sirens, subway tremor. She recorded a 5-minute loop on her phone, pitched and layered it on free software until the skyline seemed to sing. Then she placed the jar beside the speaker. After an hour, faint sparks awoke in the honey, like sediment catching light. By 3 a.m., the jar glowed steadily. Jade's pulse hammered. The luminescence hadn't required those Corsican blooms alone. Any resonant frequency might catalyze it. She emailed Elias his address gleaned from their old thread subject line. "The city is our garden." The body contained a 20-second audio clip of subway rumbles and the resurrected glow shining on her palm. No plea, no reproach, just proof. A week passed. She bottled a micro batch titled Metronome Blend that glowed only when exposed to low-frequency urban sounds. Out of caution, she shared it only with Priya and Ezra, who filmed a demo under the Williamsburg Bridge at night. The honey shimmered each time a train roared overhead. Ezra posted the clip tagged City Honey. Views spiked into tens of thousands. This time, Jade rode the wave. She opened pre-order slots capped at 50 jars, stating openly, "Proceeds fund urban pollinator corridors, community apiary workshops, and sound ecology research." Slots sold out in hours. People didn't just want a novelty, they wanted to belong to its safeguarding. On the 10th day, an unmarked envelope slid under her door. Inside, a single sheet bearing a musical stave, 8 measures of notation penned in black ink, and at the bottom an address in Bed-Stuy. Jade biked there at dusk. A gate creaked open onto a courtyard rimmed with wooden planters, empty for now. Elias sat tuning a mandocello. He looked thinner, but his eyes reflected candlelight alive. "I'm setting up a larger sanctuary," he said before she could speak. "No papers to trace it back to me." "And you invited me?" "You kept playing." They walked the perimeter. He had salvaged skylights, irrigation tubing, acoustic baffles. "We harness resonance," he explained, "not just from instruments, but from the city's own polyphony subways, church bells, basketball thumps. Plants will drink it, bees will drink them, people will drink the honey. A full circuit." Jade imagined tours for school kids, nighttime concerts open to anyone willing to silence their phones, pop up kiosks where the purchase price included a pollinator garden starter kit. She saw a risk, of course, the possibility of crackdown or commercialization, but also clarity. Beauty was infrastructure when built with intent. She held out her hand. Partners? He hesitated, then clasped it. Calluses met calluses, musician to beekeeper. At the next new moon, volunteers gathered. Priya with pH meters, Ezra painting murals of bees with wings like eighth notes, seniors from the community garden lugging compost. As they worked, Jade's bees circled overhead, carrying preludes inside their bodies. The future felt improvisational, half wild, and none of it glowed yet, but she knew the light would come, as surely as a downbeat.